Hello, welcome to the TRBusiness video channel. Today joining me is Kai Spanger. He's the Chief Commercial Officer at Gebr and Heineman. Kai, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Luke, for inviting me.
Kai, I wanted to talk to you about beauty in Asia Pacific. It's driving the category growth agenda, but it faces some stiff challenges. Online and domestic price aggression, the move towards more sustainable products, but also tying in with the demand for luxury. How is Heineman addressing that consumer demand, and how will you develop it going forward?
You can answer this in two parts. First of all, Asia Pacific. I think there's not the pressure yet from e-commerce. This is not as strong as in Europe, in my opinion. On the other side, you feel the pressure on the category because the category is quite developed. It depends where you have the Chinese people traveling. Then it's all about what we see in Sydney and Kuala Lumpur, all about skincare, especially luxury skincare. This is developing strongly. By the way, not a big difference to Europe. Same way of development. In Asia Pacific, I think fragrances has a future. It will take a bit longer. The consumer has to get used to it. Whereas here you see already the trend, which came now in Europe, here already an early trend towards so-called niche fragrances, special editions, whatever, because that's what the Asians are about, gifting and a bit of show-off, showing brands, showing special limited editions. You see this trend also in Europe, and in both areas, makeup is doing good, but no longer the driving force. When it comes to new trends, yes, all the time the question for us, especially as a retailer, is what are the real trends in beauty? Some 18 months ago, everybody was talking about K-beauty, Korean beauty. What is it? Is it a trend, or is it just a move towards some subcategories like masks, whatever? It's difficult to judge, and it's difficult to see if this trend is then the right one for our consumers.
With that in mind, Kai, do you feel that retailers are too quick to react, to jump on the bandwagon of new trends? Is that something that's just a reaction?
To say yes would be too easy, but you have to pay attention. Is it a real trend, which is then difficult to find out? I think we all, the industry and us, should talk more and should analyze more. What is the real consumer? Do we get them already? If we talk about, let's call it clean beauty, or beauty with more environmental thinking, vegan beauty in this direction can be a trend. Do we have the consumer for this trend? That's, for me, the major question.
Okay. Moving away from beauty, I want to talk to you about fine food. Now, I know it's a category that Heineman is developing. There was around, I think, 15% rise in sales last year. Where do you see the future for fine food, particularly in the context of trying to add synergies with the retail offer?
First of all, we will continuously push fine food because we think it's an excellent category for our market. It's all about gifting. It's all about last impulse purchase. Not 100%, but the consumer doesn't necessarily look to the price. They want to have a great offer. It's a lot of smaller brands with whom you work. A lot of those are far more flexible than big brands in doing special packagings, special combinations of products, which is interesting. And we shouldn't forget there is and will be continuously pressure on tobacco and spirits, which we have to balance with other categories. That's one part. The other part is food and beverage at airports not today too much separated from the core categories, perfume, cosmetics, liquor, tobacco, confectionery? I think yes. And if they would be more combined, then it's a question, what is finally food and beverage? It can be a good food offer, which you can take away. Then for me, it starts already to be food and beverage, and this can be a future to create more marketplaces at airports, where you as a consumer would feel well, and you are in a nice environment where you can buy your products, but also fulfill certain needs to have a drink or a bite.
People are saying that F&B is the new retail. Is there any truth to that?
I wouldn't go that far, but the combination in the future, depending on the dwell time at airports, is right for the attract to get the consumers.
Okay, wonderful. I want to ask you, Kai, more generally about your relationships with your suppliers. Now, you mentioned something recently that Heineman will look seriously at the relationships it will have with suppliers and will take a judgment on those who don't take travel retail seriously. With that in mind, what message would you have to new suppliers looking to get into any of the categories?
First of all, I said it very harsh, those who don't take travel retail serious, which is only a few. But I think the industry in general, and then in certain categories, has to work more with the retailers and has to seriously look more what is the final consumer expecting. If you interview today young consumers, I started first with my two daughters, they look at the market different. They start with, doesn't matter what category, is personalization right? Could be, depending on the market. The younger consumer doesn't care that much. Otherwise, some retailers on domestic doing no personalization wouldn't be that successful. They focus on service, and they focus on offering products which the consumer is asking for, the young consumer especially. And this is where we say, yeah, take the market more serious. If you are in the market, invest in the market, work with not Heineman only, but with all the retailers, because there I think, yes, we are competitors in this market, but also we should look together to develop our market into the future. Otherwise, we get more and more competition due to transparent pricing in e-commerce, and then our market will not grow any longer, and it should grow. And their suppliers should also look more into the future about how to approach the consumer in a different way. Look at promotions in any category. If it's done by brands, I wouldn't call it boring, but it's just brand promotions which you see all over the world. And then the consumer has the same impact. We have to create more ideas around the category or even more cross-category. We just talked about the marketplace. This is offering visibly cross-categories to the consumer, which definitely is the future.
Just looking strategically, Kai, about Heineman's growth footprint in Asia moving forward. The group enjoyed a very healthy 2018. I wanted to ask you how you see growth developing in Asia. Will it be purely organic? Will you consider entering more joint ventures, as have been successful in Malaysia, for instance?
For us, the first thing for the team here, for us as a company, is to secure the good work the team has done up to now to renew concessions or to prolong concessions which are successful, like Sydney, Kuala Lumpur, and others. Then I think, and we clearly communicated this, we see a bright future globally, partly Asia, in the cruise line business. There we have to adapt, it doesn't matter as a retailer or as a distributor, to the fact that our customers are putting the cruises in different regions in the world. Then you have to adapt the assortment, you have to adapt for the different types of consumers. And the other question I would answer, we do it the Heinemann way. If a joint venture is reasonable and can make sense, and we have built a good relation, that's the Heinemann way. If you look everywhere where we have joint ventures, it's a relation which was built on long term, and then it stepped into a joint venture. We are open for both sides, as long as it's in line with a family company who is saying we want to stay financially independent.
Looking on a channel perspective, in-flight now, it was quite important recently you moved to complete the acquisition of Scorpio. I want to ask you about the timing of that deal and your assessment of the in-flight marketplace and what remains a challenging climate with a number of carriers pulling their in-flight programs. Where's the potential? Is there potential?
I think there's still potential in the airline business. First of all, towards Scorpio, we will integrate throughout the rest of the year, and in autumn it should be then done the way that we service all former Scorpio customers from our 2 logistics centers which we have in Europe, and it should be a smooth transformation. The idea was simple. With our long-term partner Stuart, who is also a good friend of ours, we saw as a distributor only for small amount of products, difficult to manage, also because of what you're saying. Some airlines close the onboard sales, some might reduce it. Turning this into an advantage for Heinemann was all the time, when you take our distribution arm, was all the time an advantage, because we then, if the business is shrinking a bit, can offer consolidated supplies, consolidated service, consolidated offer. Anyhow, I think we should continue our close relation to all the airlines, because we have to ask ourselves, if one day onboard sales is gone, sales will not be gone. And there Heinemann should be ready to work together with airline partners to offer websites which are interesting for the consumer. Doesn't matter if it's then necessarily the website of the airport or a specially designed website for airline business. We should go in this direction, and the business will not stop, and the consumer will not stop to buy.
Kai, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Luc.
Thank you.